Hello. This sermonette is titled, If You Believe Certain Things, You Could Be Laodicean. Today, many in the world, many in the church today, many in other religions, I suppose, think that something dramatic or apocalyptic is going to happen. Remember Jeff Foxworthy had his own TV show about 30 years ago? I guess he started out as a stand-up comedian. He used to say things like, you might be a redneck if, or you could be a redneck if. Well, now I'm going to flip that into something more serious too. If you believe these things or you are in a church of God that teaches these things that I am going to read off to you, you're probably a Laodicean Christian. Now, this is not meant to make fun of those that believe these certain things that I'm going to read off. We are in the Laodicean age. So most Christians in the Church of God today are Laodicean. This is not name calling, and let me repeat that. This is not name calling or even meant to be funny. This is meant to be serious. But before I get into this list of beliefs, I want to say a few things. I presume that most Church of God today, Church of God groups, believes that they are Philadelphian. I've been in them, everybody's telling each other they're Philadelphian. Or that their particular group or brand is Philadelphian. All church eras still exist, but in less dominant numbers. So there is still probably an Ephesus group out there, as well as a Smyrna group, Pergamos group, probably a Thyatiran group, a Sardis group, and then there's still a Philadelphian group, and of course there is the Laodicean groups dominating these times we are in right now. There are some individuals in the Church of God that admit that they are Laodicean. I'm not sure what they base that determination on, but I've had someone tell me that he was convinced that he was a Laodicean, not a Philadelphian, when everybody else in that church group was telling each other that they were Philadelphian Christians, that they were the Philadelphians. There are some that don't care that they are Laodicean, they are Laodicean. Some, maybe you, are concerned about making it to the place of safety. The only ones that make it to the place of safety, that is clear, are the Philadelphians. They're the ones that go to the place of safety. Laodiceans don't. However, if you don't know where that line is drawn, you may be thinking that you are a Philadelphian, or you've heard people in your church say that they are all Philadelphian, and you wondered what makes it clear if you're a Philadelphian Laodicean. The consequences are that if you're a Philadelphian, you have a good chance of making it to the place of safety and living in safety during the Great Tribulation, instead of being a martyr in the Great Tribulation for 3.5 years. Another way to put it is this: a time is coming when there will be two kinds of Christians, those that go to the place of safety and those that don't go to the place of safety. And the majority of those that don't go to the place of safety will be the larger portion of Christians. Those Christians will be the Laodiceans, and they will be martyred. Jesus describes this period of time as the worst time in the history of mankind on earth. Matthew 24:21, for then there will be great tribulation, such as has not been since the beginning of the world until this time, no nor shall ever be. And unless those days were shortened, no flesh will be saved, but for the elect's sake, those days will be shortened. Although Laodiceans think that they are fine and their prophetic knowledge is good, we're talking about Revelation 3:14-20. That is not the case. Having the correct prophetic word confirmed will distinguish Philadelphia from the Laodiceans and others. Here is an abbreviated list of end-time prophetic misunderstandings in various claimed Churches of God groups. I will try to get 5 completed in this sermonette. However, there are 55 of these to go over. I'm only getting maybe 5 out of the 55 of these the first time. Many Church of God groups do not officially teach and or believe in the idea of church eras. And it's kind of convenient if you think about it. Though they sometimes teach about the churches of Revelation, they tend to take more of a preterist or past view of those churches, even though many statements made to them have had to have future prophetic ramifications. Because of that, they do not teach certain prophetic aspects of this. Most do not see their own problems and will have to go through the Great Tribulation. So I'm going to give you a quick history of the church eras right now. There are remnants of all churches in the seventh church eras of the book of Revelation. First one. Well, it started churches of Revelation 2 and 3 from 31 AD to the present. The Ephesus church era started in 31 AD to approximately 135 AD. The Smyrna church era started next 135 AD to 450 AD. Roughly, these are Pergamus church era started from roughly 450 AD to approximately 1050 AD. Thyatira church era started about 1050 AD to approximately 1600 AD. The Sardis church era started about 1600 AD to approximately 1933. In the Philadelphian era, predominantly 1933 to 1986. And then the Laodicean church era started about 1986 to the present, so about almost 40 years. God's church worldwide, GCW, PCG, the Philadelphia Church of God, sadly, like many groups, and CGG does not place its top priority on proclaiming the gospel. And this is important to do to proclaim the gospel, and these churches don't. Unlike some of the other groups, John Rittenbaugh originally seemed to consider that to be one of the best things about his group. Okay, number one, if you don't think that the gospel of the kingdom of God does not need to be preached to the world anymore, you might be a Laodicean Christian. Or let me put it another way, if your church leadership teaches that the gospel of the kingdom of God does not need to still be preached to the rest of the world, then you belong to a Laodicean Church of God group. Many Church of God groups do not believe that the kingdom of God still needs to be preached to the world as a witness per Matthew 24:14, or do not really make that a high priority, or do so in less than truly loving the truth, like Jeremiah 48:10 says. Hence, do not have the real Philadelphian work, as only the Philadelphians are promised to be protected from the hour of trial that will come on the whole world. They will not understand when Matthew 24:14 is fulfilled, or when to flee per Matthew 24:15. Hence, they do not have or lead the Philadelphian work. Only the Philadelphians are promised to be protected from the hour of trial that will come upon the whole world. You should read There is a Place of Safety for the Philadelphians, Why It May Be Petra. That's on cogwriter.com. You can also look up, should the church still try to place its top priority on proclaiming the gospel, or did Herbert W. Armstrong change that priority for the work? All this is on cogwriter.com. Number two, many, if not most, Church of God groups do not realize that the Great Tribulation begins with the King of the North, also known as the first beast of Revelation 13, invading the USA, the UK, and their Anglo-Saxon descended allies. So if you don't know this, you're probably going to be a Laodicean. If your church leadership doesn't tell you this, you belong to a Laodicean church. You won't be properly prepared to be available to react when the time comes near. Look up Who is the King of the North on Cogwriter. Also look up USA in Prophecy, the Strongest Fortresses. These are in cogwriter.com. Number three, many Church of God groups misunderstand the identity of the King of the South, Daniel 11:40 through 43, and some have the wrong prophetic sequence regarding the King of the South. This is not the order that Daniel 11 teaches. This view overlooks the fact that since the Great Tribulation is the time of Jacob's trouble, Jeremiah 30, verse 7, that it begins with the USA and its Anglo-Saxon allies like the United Kingdom getting invaded. Daniel 11:39. Some of the groups cling to this sequential error because it was once held by the late Herbert W. Armstrong, who changed his view by 1979. Oh, you don't believe me? Well, look it up. Herbert W. Armstrong, The Time We Are In Now, Pastor General's Report, Volume 1, number 15, November 20th, 1979. Since the king of the north will eliminate those of the strongest fortresses, that'd be USA, Canada, UK, etc., in Daniel 11:39, prior to invading the king of the south in Daniel 11:40, Daniel 11:39 and then Daniel 40 in sequential order, prior to invading, those who hold to this view will not know when the Great Tribulation will begin until after it has started. So if you're not aware of this, you are probably Laodicean and belong to a Laodicean church group. You won't be ready to leave with the group that does escape to the place of safety. If you believe, or if your church leadership teaches that there is no, this is number 4. If you believe, or if your church leadership teaches that there's no biblically required king of the south, then you are Laodicean. There are some Church of God groups that are like this. They teach that there is no biblically required king of the south, while at least one group is unsure, CGF Northwest. But this is an error. See, also is the future king of the south rising up. Number 5, you might be Laodicean if you believe that the final king of the south will be from the nation of Ethiopia. You might be Laodicean if you believe this because the Church of God that you belong to teaches it, or you learned it from some other Church of God group incorrectly taught this or teaches this. This is partially based upon a mistranslation in the King James Version of the Bible, as well as a position that Herbert Armstrong once held. However, he changed his position in the 1960s and 70s to be an Arabic Muslim confederation. Those who insist that the final king of the south must be Ethiopian will not possibly realize that the Great Tribulation will begin until it is too late. RCG once held that position also, but later changed it. In 2018, LCG has pushed involvement, but not specifically kingship for Ethiopia. There is an abbreviated list of 55 prophetic errors that are being taught in today's churches of God. I only mention about 4 of them, I think it comes out to. And I ran out of time for this sermon. I'm running out of time for this sermonette. If you would like to read up on more, you can go to cogwriter.com and plug into the search engine, do you hold any of these Laodicean prophetic errors? I just plugged in Laodicean and I found it. If you belong to a group that teaches these doctrines, you more than likely belong to a Laodicean group or Sardis group. It's a large group. You will not make it to the place of safety because you will be caught off guard and not ready to flee when it is time. We are doing the Philadelphian work that Herbert W. Armstrong taught during that Philadelphian era. Matthew 24:14 says this, "And this gospel of the kingdom will be preached in all the world as a witness to all the nations, and then the end will come." There's also Romans 11:25. It says, "For I do not desire, brethren, that you should be ignorant of this mystery, lest you should be wise in your own opinion. That blindness in part has happened to Israel until the fullness of the Gentiles has come in. And so all Israel will be saved." Somebody has to continue doing the work to bring the Gentiles in. Until the fullness of the Gentiles comes in, Jesus will be held back from his return. Look around. You should know that the time is near and you could be a part of that work. Come talk to us. The workers are few. This is Lewis Rubin with the Continuing Church of God.